Good morning, people. This is Stacia from the Turner family, and my morning car rant on the way to work. So I've been following the YSL trial probably since um, Adrian Bean's testimony. It was I can't remember really what day it was, but I had seen some of my clips of it on TikTok. So I hadn't really watched, the first maybe 20 days or so, 20, 30 days, something like that. So that's when I started watching it. I kind of got really interested because I was like, can this guy get on the stand and just say, I don't recall the whole damn time? Like, I don't recall, I don't recall, I don't recall. It's very awkward to me. So, you know, and then after that, I kind of went back and watched it from opening statements, just kind of binge watching it like a Netflix show, right? But we're now like today is officially 108 days in, and you know, I ask a lot of questions because my spouse has a lot of insight, especially when it comes to courts and prison sentences, things like that. So I'm always constantly asking him questions just to kind of get in his head and figure out, is this normal? Does this happen in court? Does this happen during trials? And he's like, no, no, this is not. But and I keep personally comparing it to Russ because Russ took 2 days. You know, the defense came back and said, hey, the prosecution knew about this and they hid it from us. The judge asked, some questions and made a determination on the spot and said, you know what, we're not going to do this. And decided to dismiss that case with prejudice. Now, of course, the DA can appeal it, but she gave them an ultimate sanction because of what they did. The difference in this case is one, I get it, it's 6 defendants versus 1. I get that they're charged with a RICO instead of manslaughter. I get that there's evidence that they want to present, that at least, 3 members are convicted, are excuse me, not convicted, but 3 members are thought to have committed murder. Several members were arrested, with guns and or, you know, Uggs on them because we don't want to put the D in front of there. But, and so they're charging all these overt acts. But how is what they're doing right? I mean, they're literally telling Lil Woody that we're not going to charge you for anything that you've done within the last 4 years on a state level and 5 years on a federal level from 2015 till 2019 and 2020. So you're good. But they are charging members of quote unquote YSL with overt acts and RICO charges that include crimes from 2013, 2014, 2015, and then a bunch of random ass dudes that they picked up that doesn't know anybody that's on the YSL label, but they may be in the YSL, the gang, and saying, oh, well, all these people are interconnected. How is that okay? And I'm a millennial baby. So, I was probably a teenager around the time Lil Wayne and Cash Money came out, around the time Master P and No Limit came out. And I live in Kansas, but guess what we got? Cash Money Bloods, No Limit Bloods, Cash Money Crips. So are we going to charge Master P and Birdman with everybody that decided to adopt their gang? Are we going to go after fucking Nelly and the Saint Lunatics because somebody decided to name a gang after their music group, the Saint Lunatics? How is that okay. Because Jeffrey has a label that's called YSL, no different than Cash Money or No Limit. And somebody said, you know what? We're going to start a gang using that name of that label. But because you need a big figurehead to make all of this stick, to really draw in the attention, you're going to go after Jeff and everybody on his label and everybody he may or may not know. I mean, let's keep it a buck. Even the freaking overt act from 2013 where DK crashes into the deadgum laundromat, if we just keep it 100 with that, even if, and that's a big damn if, but even if Jeff was in the car, even if he was, you didn't charge him. You didn't charge him for 10 years. So that means you had all this testimony back then. You even have your Detective Quinn telling Jeff in Neiman Marcus, hey, your boy snitched on you. And you still didn't charge him. But because you decided the best way to get all these crimes solved is to charge everybody with a RICO and convict them at the same time of everything that they may know about, they may not know about, somebody else may have done, or and even if they didn't do it. But we're going to charge all y'all with the same thing. That way we can make our stats look good. In addition to that, we're going to continue to present late evidence. We're going to continue to release late Brady. We're going to say, oh yeah, it's just such a cluster F. We kept forgetting about stuff, and that's why we keep turning it over late. You the prosecution. You know what you're doing. Let's not play. Chief Deputy District Attorney Love was a judge. And I'll just leave that at that. But years of experience between her and Hilton and Fonnie. You mean to tell me that you keep forgetting what evidence you have, so you just keep presenting it late? Or is it, this worked with the last judge, we all work together, we don't really want to speak bad about one another, so we're going to keep sneaking this shit in and see if it's allowed. The worst she can do is call us out for it, but she ain't going she's not going to exclude our evidence, because that's the worst possible thing she can do, and she don't want that up on appeal. So we're going to keep doing this. And even though Judge Whitaker, I think, is a very unbiased judge, and she is extremely fair, I don't think because she hasn't reviewed all of the transcripts, she doesn't really know everything that's transpired, which is understanding. But it's different from seeing something from its inception to the point that it's had its baby. Because in the time that we've been trying this, somebody then got pregnant, had a baby, and the baby's now one. To seeing them go off to school. You know what I'm saying? We're right here in toddler time right now. And in a few years, by the time this case is done, they'll be off to Head Start, if not kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? That's a horrible analogy, but those of you that can make it make sense can make it make sense. So because of that, you know, she's not able to read the body language that's going on in the room. She's not able to read the high-pitched yelling when Love get a little beside herself and trying to drive her point home. She gets talking real loud and get a little bit more soprano in her voice, because it ain't alto or bass. She go from alto to soprano when she needs to get something across. You know, she gets to squeaking. She's not able to see the body language of Steele and Adams when they're questioning the witnesses that they put on the stand. And let's be 100. She went back and had that data plotted because Detective Racy couldn't speak as an expert because they had too many experts doing the same thing, And basically, they just had to say, oh, these phones were hitting off of these towers and not exactly where they were, because the towers, you could be, with miles away from the towers. So they needed somebody to go back and say, okay, is there any way you can plot where these are a little bit closer? But let's also keep that 100. Your DA, the head DA, Fonnie Willis, said that cell phone plotting data ain't right. That ain't accurate. And maybe that's because she was on the witness stand when they was asking questions about her cell phone plotting data. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You know what I'm saying? What's good for one is good for all. If it ain't right for Fonnie and her special prosecutor when it comes to plotting their phones and whether or not they were in any type of special relationship before she asked him, and she asked him to be a special prosecutor, it's good for the defense. So why is it okay not to use it against her, but it's not okay not to use it against these 6 men? And whether or not they did these crimes is irrelevant. That's for the prosecution to prove and for the defense to rebut. But why are we ambushing them? And why is it okay for ITE men, and not that I don't love Alec Baldwin, because I absolutely do, to be called out in 2 days, and the DA has to dismiss the case is dismissed with prejudice. But because we want to put somebody in jail, we gonna let these men of color sit and not be afforded the same respect that another man was afforded. How is that okay? How is that okay that we're just going to keep ambushing them with more and more and more and more what you say is evidence, pertinent evidence? And at what point is somebody going to say, you know what? This may not be right. I mean, the defense keeps saying that. But everybody keeps coming back and saying, oh, but it is right. But is it? Is it right? If you've been watching this trial any longer than a week, and you started anytime after day freaking 1 to now, I believe you would have a clear understanding that something ain't right. For real. And that ain't fair. We ain't fair. And I don't care how badly you want to convict somebody. At what point do we say the way we are treating these men isn't fair? It's not fair to blame everybody for something that may not have had nothing to do with them. We're going to keep blaming people for thinking stuff. We're going to keep blaming people for being together. We're going to keep blaming people for may having knowledge about some crimes. I'm pretty sure everybody in that courtroom got knowledge of some crimes, whether or not they committed them. They know something. Something their family did, something their cousin did, something their AT done, and they ain't prosecuted it. So, let's be for real. All right, guys, I'm off to work. That's all I wanted to say today. I'll post later. Thank you. Bye.